Good evening. Is it on? Yes, it's on. I put my questions here, and I still have later. I'm glad that we could do this series in this time, and you know, the benefit of it, who you think has the most benefit of it? It's me. Because I am learning, I'm deepening the things for myself, and I realize more better things that I have to share and I have to learn in my own life. We have started our presentations with wanting to understand the human being and why he gets sick. And I presented here on the first night that the law of life puts conditions to life. If our life would be without conditions, then we would be without needs, then we would be God. And the life was made to run by a power. And that power is the power of God, which is love. So that your body runs, that your spirit is in a good mood, is because He has to work to exercise love. And the connection is very simple. I hope I did that. So maybe I do it again. This is the body. And you know now he needs two things. He needs chemistry and he needs power, electricity. Both of them he cannot give to himself. Both of them must be given by the Spirit he has. And the Spirit needs to take decisions. And the decision he takes, what to eat, and he takes a decision how his body works. And his decisions that he takes to give the power are in a direct relationship to his fulfilling his own needs. So the spiritual needs that fulfill the Spirit are the power for the body. That's why a spirit that has fulfilled his need of love will have what kind of a body? A powerful body. This was the body of Jesus. Jesus was ever fulfilled in his needs or not? Did he know how it works? Yes or no? Yes. Jesus was never in his spirit unfulfilled with his needs. That's why he always gave to his body the right power. How many headaches did he have in his life? None. How many stomach aches? How many disorders in his back? Had he anyone? Zero. Because he knew how to satisfy his spiritual needs, so his body was always under the right power. And he knew how to do it since he knew the law that you now too know. Yes? He knew that love only he can take and only he can give. Jesus knew exactly how to fulfill his spiritual needs. And since he knew it, he never got his body and never got himself in a position where he lost control. Did he ever lose control over himself? Did he? No. Everything he did in full control and in full knowledge what he wanted to do. That's how he represented the man, how he should live. So, Jesus Christ was the example that came on earth, that we through him should be able to do the same, because we were made like this. We were made to take from a part and give to another one. But through our sinful nature, through the error of our mind, through the idea who I am God, I am switching. I put all those relationships that I should have on the giving side, I put on the taking side. And so I'm totally confused, and I work against myself. So I need a power, and that power is love. And that love comes from where does the power come from? From outside or from inside? From outside. So Jesus needed to take love. From where did he take that love? He took it from his Father, and what did he give to his body? What did he give to his body? The love of his Father. That's what exactly he gave to all humanity. He said, he who sees me, sees whom? Is the Father. Because his work were a reflection of whom? Of the Father. He had a love that went into his body while he was giving it to his disciples. So Jesus was in a need to take. He didn't produce love out of himself, because he said, I am a human, and he said, I do not live only from bread, but I live from every word that comes from my Father. And that every word is the law. He explained it as a law. Because the only words that God spoke from heaven were what? Was the law. And then, of course, to himself, he said, this is my beloved Son, in whom I find my pleasure. So, Jesus took the love of his Father, and he could say, everyone who sees me sees the Father, because the works I do are the works of my Father. And so, in his body, always went the right power. He would never lose control, because his only source to take was his Father, and his only place to give were humanity. And since these two are connected, you see, when the Spirit gives, he feeds the body. Let us understand that principle. Whenever you have thoughts of love to another one, you do your body the best power. So this is the principle that we need to understand. Now, through the deception that we have in our minds, we do not take from God. And by not taking from God, what comes out here? God's love? God's love? No, it comes out a fake love. That fake love comes out and it works as long it is not challenged. But in that moment that this love is challenged, your body will get destroyed. Step by step. Depends on how big the issue is. So I came to understand that there is a true love and there is a fake love. Something that is a copy, but that copy cannot satisfy the body. And I came to understand it on disease. So let us look the last case that I didn't share yesterday with you. This is the 23-year-old student, medical student, that got off and was surgeried, was taken away her whole colon. Because she had an ulcer, she had perforation of her colon, and she had to survive, they took it out. Now, she had that disease for 6 years. It started when she was 16. Now, when you have an issue with 16, you don't need to search for, to find a cause for that. You know where to search for it. That's in the parents' house. So she took love, you know that, from her parents, from her mom especially. And since her mom was not up to her expectation, anyone here whose mom is up to his expectation? Think on it. You will hardly find a child that says, my mom is up to my expectation. And she had good ideas for her mom. You know that children have good ideas for their parents. I learned so much from my third son. He just gave me so much instructions. and I just... I was thankful. He saved me, or God through him saved me from many stupid things to do. Because he had good ideas, and I was, yes, not under God. I was not very smart in my dealings. So children are a real good thing to see how you do. And so she wanted to help her mother. You know that every child wants that? Unconsciously. Because when mother is the source where you take, how must she taste? How must she taste? Good. I once was speaking with a mother, and she had a 13-year-old daughter. And I had consulted her alone, but at the door after the meeting, I shake her hand, and we changed a few words, and this woman was sad because she had no husband. And I don't know what I said, but in that moment, the young girl said, "But Mom, I love you. Isn't that enough?" Isn't that nice from the child? She wanted to satisfy her mom, who were not satisfied. But can she do that? Can she? No, never. But by wanting to do it, the child makes himself sick, and we want to see the process that is there in the child's spirit. So she is in the best intentions to her mom, and she want to help her mom. Now, how much have children success to help their mom? I wanted to help my mom. I was adult. I was just a few years ago. My mom was under depression, and I said, I have to fix her because I know how. And so I talk to my mom, and I talk to my mom, and my mom doesn't get it. How do you become? Leave it alone? Your voice gets louder. I said, Mom, how cannot understand this? For whom do you take it? For whom do you make it? Why do you want to help your mom? It's subconscious. You want to do it for yourself. Because you cannot have a mom that is depressed and look to it and accept it. You cannot. You have to do something about it. So she is in this situation where with 16 her disease appears. And she develops it more and more. Then with 23, she should get just out her colon. What is the problem in the love of this child towards her mom? Is she not loving her? Is the child not loving her mom? Of course she loves. But what kind of love? What is that? What we do not understand in love that makes us sick. Does this girl not love her sister and she wanted to help? You know the story from last night? Does this man do not want to help his daughter to have a good relationship with her? What is the ultimate process that makes the disease? And the ultimate process that makes the disease is the incapacity of the Spirit to exercise divine love. You exercise a love that is not divine, that is not made for your nervous system. You exercise a love that destroys your body. But you don't understand that it is not love. Because no one explains it to her. If you don't have a measurement that is objective, how many definitions of love would we have? How many definitions of love can you have? You can have many definitions. Everyone can up and say love is this, and love is this, and love is this. But how do you know? If you don't have a measurement that is objective, that you cannot set aside. So what I found in the human nervous system and in the human body, in the human liver and in my stomach, especially my stomach, he shows me the kind of love he needs. And if I exercise that kind of love, he would never get hurt. And give me a feedback, you should give some love inside there, up there, and not something else. What is the love that I found out the body needs, not the spirit? Because on spiritual level, we are all subjective. But on physical level, there is how much subjectivity, how much insecurity? Zero. Because the physical works like a watch, I would say, something that is unchangeable. And on the physics, I could understand a definition of love that is a divine love. And yes, I have only this one two-dimensional love. I believe it has more dimension. I haven't yet figured out how to paint that or how to. But if we would just fulfill this two-dimensional side of love, we would be healthy. Because this is what the body needs, that the spirit should exercise. And it proves that it must be divine, because you can do whatever you want. You will not produce it. Let us see what is love. What is the love of God that is that mean that will satisfy the spirit and always satisfy the body? So it has two parts. That's why I say two-dimensional. Both parts need to be present at the same time. And that is, God has maximum interest in the other person. Would you say that is a foundation of love, to have maximum interest in another person? Yes? Yes. So, can a human being exercise maximum interest in another person? Can this girl have maximum interest in his mom? Yes or no? I didn't understand. Was the yes or a no? Now think a little bit. If I would have put a question, can a mom have a maximum interest in her child? Can she? Can a husband who is jealous have maximum interest in his spouse, in his wife? I tell you, yes. There are jealous people, and I know some of them that are online all the time when they don't see the partner. And they're on the phone so that they hear every step, every word the other speaks. Do you like it? That's maximum interest. Maximum interest means I need you for my life. So every human being can exercise maximum interest in the other because he needs it. But when a human exercises maximum interest as only means, when the other is not doing the right thing, what does the human being make with his maximum interest on that person? It will dominate. It will rule. It will force. The other should do the right. Is that love? Anything like love? No, we all would say that because, you see, I can go in any culture and ask that question, if that is love, and everyone will say no. But you know who are most tempted to exercise this kind of love? It's mothers and fathers. And I have met so many Christian parents that have an issue with their children. And if they could, they would just dominate them for their own good. And last year I had this case that occupied me almost the whole year, and also this year sometimes. But I know a mother, her daughter was 18, and she fell in love with the wrong person. Can that happen? And the mother and the father got wild. She fell in love with a person that they would never accept to be their son-in-law, because it was from another nationality. And so both mother and father spoke with the daughter and spoke with the boy and said, you have to separate, you have to quit. But the children were at school, they were at the academy, 200 kilometers away. Can you control them? No. So finally, the parents were putting pressure. They asked me what to do. They called me in the right time. And I said, let her do it. They didn't like it. How? I said, because it is her God-given right to do the wrong. Not that it's the right to do the wrong that is God-given, but God allowed in His presence that sin should appear. Did He? Did He stop it? Did He? No. Would you have stopped it? Yes. So, I saw it coming. The daughter got very bad grades. She went downhill. Then she wanted to study. She wanted to do the university. But that didn't happen because she finished finally her high school to then apply for university. But she didn't do it. She came home. Her parents, unhappy, put her under pressure. And she finally moved out. With 19, she moved to that gentleman who lived together with his family in a small room, 6 persons. She had a nice big house with her parents, and now she moves there. For what sake? For love's sake. At home, if you ask her mom if she would love her, what does your mom say? Oh yes, from all my heart. When you ask her dad, oh yes, from all my heart. But when the daughter comes and says, Mom, I want to marry this person, whatever it cost, he is my life. Then the parent says, we won't come to the wedding. We won't support this kind of a wedding. And finally, she got pregnant. I was expecting that. And then it went off and down. Sometimes the mother, the child responded to mother's phone, but she blocked her mother's phone on her phone. Because the mother loves her and she calls her. And I counsel this woman because she's a dear woman, she's a very faithful Christian. And she went to many trials. But now she's at her so-called biggest trial. She heard me preach 7 years ago a similar story, she said. And since then I prayed that it should never happen to one of my children. And it happened exactly like I did not want it to happen. And she fell into deep mourning. She fell into deep distress. She could not stop weeping. She fell into depression and said, look, on the way your body reacts, you must see that something is wrong with you. Something you misunderstand. Then they get married a month or two before she delivers. But the parents are not called. But they hear it, that day she got married, and she calls me, the mom calls me and says, this is the darkest day in my life. My daughter got married. And I said, be happy. I said, how can I be happy? This is the darkest day in my life. Why? And then the child was delivered. And she calls me and says, my daughter has delivered yesterday her child. And I said, where are you? Well, I am at home. You're not there? No. Why not? Well, I sent just my daughter to be there. And I almost pushed her. I got not so loving to her. I almost pushed her. I said, you need to be at the side of your daughter that has delivered her child. Because I know how much important it is for every woman that gives child, in the moment or before she gives birth, the memory of her own childhood somehow consciously or subconsciously comes up, and you think and you would need your mother to be with you. That is so. I haven't done it like that. And I sent her. But she said, well, she should reap what she has sown. And I really love this family. I mean, they are my friends for years. And I met her this summer. And I said, look, how are you doing with your son-in-law? And she says, I don't even want to see him. I said, you must invite him to your home. You must be friend with him. You must love him like your own daughter. What was her answer? She said, I cannot. She said, this is the biggest mountain that I ever have to climb. I said, no, there are more bigger than this. Don't worry. I said, if I just make this, and I explained to her, what was it? Was it the love of God that she was driven on, or her error of her mind? What was it? It was the error of her mind that drove her into a position where she says, I love my daughter, I love my grandchild, but I don't want to see my son-in-law. And I say, because you know why she cannot see him? You know what the error is? She thinks he made her the greatest loss in her life. If your son-in-law made you the greatest loss in your life, you can never love him, you can never invite him to his house, to your house. If she could, she would have taken her away from him. She would have done that, what a human being would do under the control of a selfish nature. And I tell you, I learned from cases like this so many things. And I learned the disease comes from a one-sided interest, but not with the right motivation. It's about me, not about my daughter. It's about me, because it's my daughter. I have to fix her. I have to put her right. And it is so amazing. We were talking together for all this year and a half, till summer this year. I didn't hear from her until then. And she couldn't do what I said. She couldn't follow the principles, because you're so in prison with your children, you're so in prison with those you think you're dependent on, you cannot help yourself, believe me. And so I came to understand this is, I don't know if I did this last year, probably I did this definition of love. Does God have maximum interest in that lady? Does he? Does he have maximum interest in you? Yeah, what stops him from ruling you? What stops him to send a few angels and whenever you do some wrong things, take a drug or something, to just push you on the finger? What stops him? It stops him that his love gives you how much liberty? 100% liberty to give to the other person. How much respect is that? 100% respect. How much force to do the good? No force to do the good. Tell me, how much can a human give 100% liberty to the person he says he loves. I'm awaiting a response. No one can. You see, here we find that love is something that is purely divine. You see, we have read 1 Corinthians 13, have we? Have we? Now, what do you think 1 Corinthians 13 was written for? For a relationship of people to be in heaven with? I mean, is that a heavenly thing or a love prescription under the circumstances of sin? What do you think? Let us look a little bit to it, because I like to intervene the Bible to see the practical application of love. Because we know the love chapter. Do we read it at every wedding? Yes? And how many can perform that? That is divine. And you will see that the power of love does not lie in the maximum interest, but it lies in the capacity to respect 100% the choices of another person. So it says here, charity or love suffereth long. Tell me, with whom? Does God need to suffer long? You know, when God came down, when Moses said, Lord, reveal thyself to me, how did God reveal himself? He said, I am the long-suffering, in abundant mercy, and you know the Bible verse. It's almost the same thing that is in 1 Corinthians 13. Now, do you need to suffer long with a perfect person? Yes or no? No. What does suffering long means? Have maximum interest or give liberty? What makes you to suffer long? Why you not give up the one? What empowers you to suffer long? The capacity to respect. It's not the maximum interest that makes you to suffer long. It's the capacity to say, okay, it's the other's right to do it. Charity suffers long and is kind. To whom? To whom? To the good person or to the bad person? You see, to the good person, you don't need to be kind. You're always kind. I have this quote, I have this book with me, it's from the Mount of Blessing and Steps to Christ. And it became my continual guide, so to say. And I read last night a quote. Before I went to bed, I just said, Lord, speak to me. I want to know something. And then I open up and I just read a sentence, and then it's clicking, and I say, okay, that's enough. That's it. So it is, the children of God are those who are partakers of his nature. It is not earthly rank, nor birth, nor nationality, nor religious privilege which proves that we are members of the family of God. What proves that we are members of the family of God? It is love. A love that embraces all humanity. Even sinners whose hearts are not utterly closed to God's Spirit will respond to kindness, while they may give hate for hate. They will also give love for love. But it is only the Spirit of God that gives love for hatred. And now pay attention. To be kind to the unthankful and to the evil, to do good, hoping for nothing again. That is, giving for how much, hoping to get back. Is the insignia, I hope it is the right spelling, of the royalty of heaven. That's the stamp that God gives you. The sure token by which the children of the highest reveal their high estate. You see, at the entrance of heaven, I say, you won't be asked, tell me what is written in Isaiah 58. And you say, Isaiah 58, oh, Lord, good, enter. At the entrance of heaven, there will be that one quality that is out there. This one quality is the capacity, by not giving up the interest, to give 100% liberty to the other one. You know who broke that law? You know who brought unliberty to heaven? Where did he break the law? Did he break it in not having interest? No, he broke the law there where he misused the liberty that was there and wanting to enforce another thing. So he who is the originator of force is the one that gave us his nature when Adam and Eve ate from the forbidden fruit. And so you will find no human being in sinful nature to be able to give you liberty if he has an interest in you. He must control you. That's why the difference between God and the devil comes out at this point. While the devil cannot give you liberty, he must control you. God has no tendency to control you. Because you know how he created you. He knows that he created you, that you only yourself should control you. He knows that he gave the Spirit a capacity. He was made in the image of God. He has to take and he has to give. Yes, he's dependent. We will see that it's a different point of view. But let us understand first, what is love? Love is the capacity to be kind to those who are not kind. And you know who are most unkind? Those you live with. And there you have your biggest test. So love suffers long and is kind, but not to kind people. That is now thing. Jesus says, if you love those who love you, how much divine thing is in you? How much? None. It's only when you can give love and long suffering with the erring one. But that you can do only when you are independent of him. When he is on the side where you give out that. When it's on the side to take, you cannot do that. Love envious not. Love wanteth not itself. It is not puffed up. And we can go through all these things and we will see how it works on the level it's either one or the other that is mentioned as a basic thing. And then we come to the end, and I will come back to this Bible verse at the end of the presentation. But let's hear in verse 7 it says, beareth all things, beareth all things. Love beareth all things. What makes love to bear all things? What makes love all powerful? The capacity to have maximum interest or to give maximum liberty? It is maximum liberty that makes you all powerful. You see, maximum liberty can only a divine person that is totally independent of everything give. That's God. And He made us that we should take from Him this capacity and put it out to others. And then all heaven will be secure, will it? All heaven will be in a perfect state of bliss, because no one will, by any interest, say to the other, hey, you must correct this here. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Love is all-powerful because it can do something what a human can never do from himself. It can give liberty. And this is why, in the whole battle between good and evil, this is the point. About this is the battle. If you have not this capacity, you fall through. Because this is just divine. It's the opposite of the devil's capacity. And here, this is the cause why you get your colitis. She loves her mom, does she? Would she force her mom to do the right? Yes, she does it all the time. She needs to stop breaking this law, breaking this thing. Yes, it might be right that her mom is wrong. But when she puts force to force her mom, she gets sick. She must get sick. Because that's the opposite of the nervous system. That's the opposite that the body needs. Force. Pressure. I have to bring this person to do the right. You know, as a doctor, how much I am exposed to want to do the right. I see my patient, and I would so much just heal them. But I have learned that that must not be necessary love. But it is that I want to rule over them. I want to fix them. But that would be, I am God. I want to fix you. This makes the 9 out of 10 diseases in our bodies. If it's diabetes, if it's hypertension, it's the incapacity to let the loved ones die, to let the loved ones suffer sickness, to let the loved ones suffer. It is where we impose our will upon the will of others for our own sake, because yes, we need love and we want to take it from those here while we have no control of them, but we want to control them. This mother's, who's her, I hardly want to express this, but I have to say it, who's her idol? Who's her love source? Even though she's 15 years in the faith and has gone through many difficulties. And I said to her, yes, you're sincere, you're in the next step of growing up in Christ. Are you willing to take the next step? Are you willing to take your child out of the source of your own comfort and put it where it belongs, where you give her total respect? Total respect. Whatever she wants to do with 19 or 20, if you cannot counsel her, like God would do it, then leave her alone to do it. We cannot do that, can we? And we cannot do it because we say it's love. But it's the devil's attitude. There is a nice quote in Desire of Ages, search for it, that says, "He who wants to do the good by force is empowered by the spirit of the devil." There is no compelling power in God. That is only in the devil. That's why the great controversy will never be won by force. Everything will be won just without using force. Christ died on the cross by force. Did he want to force anything? But did he win? Did he destroy the power of evil? Yes. Did he do it by forcing someone? No. But when he died, the heavenly angels knew the devil's evil being, and they did not believe him anymore. The devil was expelled from heaven, because what would he do there if no one believes you? Would you go there? No. That's why he doesn't go to the assembly of the Son of God, because he knows no one will listen to me. But he has a lot of people here on earth, does he? They still are very happy to listen to him. But how will he be defeated? At the end of the judgment, when all will discover, the devil will go to his people and say, "Come on, let's go against the city." How many will raise with him? How many? None. You haven't read it yet all over. When the final judgment is over, when everyone has seen God's righteousness and love, when the devil stands up and says, "Let's go," his force is broken by no one listening anymore to him. That's how God wins. It's the only way that Paul says you can undo evil only through good. You cannot undo evil with evil. You must do it with good. And I think at this point of the lesson of love, we are most behind where we should be. Because look at our situation in our families. How much force do you want to do every time you're there? See, I'm so happy that God shows me in my body when I want to put force. And I just got some symptoms in my body because it was not a big force. It was a little bit of force, but it was still force. I wanted to force my wife. She's the one that I want to force most. And I always get sick. But even when I force others, when I want to force my child to do the right, so I get the symptoms in my body. So it's always force that destroys me. I have an interest. I want to do the good. But I do it with force. Have you never been tempted to change someone? That's our daily temptation, especially with our loved ones. And how much power do we have to let things happen just because that's love? Now, some people come and say, how do you deal with children? How can you give them liberty? And I understand the principle like this. The need of every child is liberty. But every child is dependent. And dependency and liberty are two different kind of things. If we would not be dependent, then we would be independent being. Then we would be God. But we are dependent on this love to exercise. If we don't exercise it, we get sick. So there's a consequence when we don't exercise it. This is why we are dependent on God, and if we do not want to do His will, we will have the result of it. But now we break the will of God mostly unconsciously. I don't want to do the evil because it is evil. I want to do the good, and when I want to do the good, I do the evil. That's more subtle because it's covered under the good. So I'm dependent to exercise this kind of love, and God needs to help me. Can He force me? Can He? No. I once wanted to force Him. Not once only. But once I wanted to force Him that my daughter should not be able to get off the plane, or the plane should never land in Frankfurt, who came from Calgary. And I wanted to pray the whole night so that the plane will be turned around like Jonah's ship, and the Lord should not allow my child to come back. Was I loving? That child, if I would have been God, would have stood in that corner in Canada at that school where I put her until she would have finished. But the next day in the morning, I went out to speak with God because the plane landed. The Lord didn't go into my forcing. And then the thought came to me and said, if it would be after you, everyone needs to do exactly your own will. Is that the truth? Oh yes, I would be the best dictator. So we are dependent on God to do the right. We are dependent on this love for life. So when I do the wrong thing, God comes into my life and gives me a rebuke. He gives me a consequence. Do I love the consequence? Not at all. And you know the story when I was 2 years ago, when I was in Myanmar, and I had terrible pain in my stomach. And it happened that just before I had to go, my wife was not ready with her packing, and I came in and we were late for the airport, and she was not ready. And it was 30 years after our marriage, and I said to her, when will you learn to be ready? And I immediately the thought came to me, and when you will learn to never get upset? And I said, it's me. And so, you see, you sometimes then think you have to put your wife, you say we leave to the airport a half an hour earlier so that when it's gone, you should have no problem. But you see, that's not something that is for me a option. I rather drive by myself to the airport at my time, but it's not an option to say we leave at a half and then you leave a half an hour later just to fix the other one. It's not possible. I like my watch to be always every time exactly at the time. My wife has it 5 minutes before. So that she makes sure she comes to the right time. I mean, she's not the only one, I believe that. So that's, how we are a little bit different. But God must make me clear that I am wrong. When I am right, I was punctual, I was ready, she was not. Why do I get sick? And terrible pain in my stomach. And I was laying there in my bed in the hotel, and I said, Lord, I understood. I confessed my sin. It hurts terribly. I said, why does it hurt so much? Why does it not stop? And the thought came to me, says, that you might not forget. Isn't the Lord good? Always good, huh? Come on. All the time. Even when He gives you the consequence for your stomach pain? Yes, we sin so easily and we do not even hate it. But whenever I get a blister or whenever I get a pain or a dizziness, I wake up in the night and I'm dizzy. I say, Lord, what happened with me yesterday or the day before yesterday? And I know it is always force. It is always that I want to press on others the good. It's a terrible sin. It's a destruction sin. So God needs to make me aware of it. You're so enforcing that you don't even get aware of it. Believe me. I would make the test. I sometimes provoke people. I say, take in your house an atheist person and let him watch you for a week. And let him be very diligent to see how you do in your house. And then let him put ready for heaven or not ready for heaven. Would you pass? Would you pass if a non-believer would look to you and say, oh, this is the revelation of God's love. This is where I have to, this is the peace of heaven in this house. We must understand that God needs to use measures for us to make us aware how evil our heart is. Not because it wants to be evil, but because it puts in force. That's why He gives us consequences. That's why we get our diseases in mercy from His side. But it does not feel good when you get a consequence, is it? But if God would not give you the consequence, would He love you? The consequence is because you break the commandment. It's not, God does not force you with the consequence to keep the commandment, does He? Never. When Adam and Eve sinned, He kicked them out of Eden to make clear to them who they are. He put them into difficult situations so that they understood that something is wrong with them. Because now they thought there is nothing wrong with them. They're all okay. They're the best. So, since the deception is so deep in our heart, without a felt consequence, no one will get it. No one. No one will reach heaven. Because God needs to show us the consequence of our own forcing. And if you don't hate it, to be forcible, how shall we overcome it? The more I look to myself, and the more I see how hateful it is to want to force another person to do the right, I abhor myself for it. Because it's not divine. You see, when the Jewish people met Christ and they didn't like what He said, what was their action? Kill Him! Why did they kill Him? because he would not fulfill her own expectations. He was against that. So the same thing, like God does deal with us, we must deal with our children. Do our children know what is right and wrong? Do they? That's a mistaken statement. No. Our children do not know what is right and wrong, because they might know certain commands that you give in the house or certain rules that is not good to keep them, but do they know why? Do they know where the defectiveness is in their character? So when a child breaks the commandment that the parents have to teach, which commandments? Their own or God's commandments? God's commandments. When you teach your own commandments, then you're the God. Parents should teach their children the commandments in the morning, in the afternoon, and at midday, and in the evening. Because the God's commandments are for the child's mind the orientation for his life. Every principle that we put in our children must have its root in God's rules. And for that, you need to understand God. See, I learned that it is not my responsibility to take care of what others did wrong. Is it? Is it my responsibility? You have never a responsibility for another person. Not even a mother for her child or a father for his child. Because what the child does, what another person does, is its own responsibility. This principle you need to teach your child. So when something happens, it falls down and breaks. What does the child need to do? What does the child need to do? Clean it up, yes? With force? With force? No, the child needs to do it out of his voluntary service. Because he knows, I did something wrong, it didn't happen by because I want, but now it's broken, and I clean it up cheerfully and happy. How many children would do that? Just by their own nature. Probably not. But now the parents is in a big temptation to force the child to clean that up. Is he? But in the moment you force the child to clean it up, you break the law. The child needs to clean it up by his own choice. Is that easy to teach a child? Yes or no? I tell you, it's so easy to put force into that child, to put that away. Instead of using that as a tool to show the children's sinful nature and how to overcome it, we force the child to do the right. Parents have an authority, and they must exercise the authority, but they must be able to separate dependency and liberty. You can inflict on your child any punishment, I say so, that is for not cleaning up. You can give a consequence. But the next day the child needs to think, okay, will I clean it up or not? It must be the child's voluntary act to do it. I tell you, the right way to educate is the hardest way, but it's the most effective. The principles need to be taught to the children, and I think the children will pick them up easily, and because they are willing to learn. But we need to know they have a sinful nature. And that sinful nature is something that is inherited. They have an inherited tendency to do evil. And that tendency, will you change that in a moment? I found in a book, it's F.E., I don't know even what book it is, Suspension of Students. Suspension of students, yes? There was a situation where students were suspended from school, and Ellen White was writing to the teachers. And she said that what they did was not right. And she says, characters are not formed in one mold. There is every phase of character received by children as inheritance. The defects and the virtues of traits of character are thus revealed. So whenever a child falls, you can help him to see his own defect of character like a trainer. But you don't get upset of this because it didn't break your law, it broke God's law. Hereditary, let every instructor take this into consideration. It is instructors. Hereditary and cultivated deformity of human character, as also beauty of character, will have to be met, and much grace cultivated in the instructor to know how to deal with the erring for their present and eternal good. With whom have we deal with? With evildoers? Because they want to do the evil? No, with erring that have inherited. We have to use when the character comes out, when a thing is happening, God uses my stomach to show me my defect of character. And He helps me by showing it to me to change me. And I don't see it as a punishment. I see it as a favor. I'm never angry with God that I have sometimes 3, 4, 5 pains in my body. They don't last long because they are little things in my life, but still, I hate it. And I say, Lord, where is the end of my violence? Where is the end of my violence? So, let us have this balance. Liberty must be absolute, but there is dependency. And the children are dependent on their parents. That's why the parents have to give and show them the law they are dependent of. And they have to help them when they fall, to make out of the fall a victory. Do you think that takes much more crucifying self with the parents than just go with the commanding issue? You see, in most people, we have the idea that God has made us to command us. Yeah? We take that Bible verse that Abraham commanded his household, and we interpret it in the most wrong possible way it can. God has made man to govern himself. That's why He gave him 2 actions. There is none that is there from God. Take and give. Whose actions are there? Yours or God's? It's yours action. God cannot act for yourself. You have to take and you have to give. That's your full responsibility. That's you have to govern yourself. So God gave you the law not to govern you, but you should govern yourself after the law. That's the meaning of the law. That's like traffic law. Would there be possible a traffic on earth without a traffic law? Totally impossible. That's why God gave the law that every one of us should feel himself in the traffic. How many sidetrack did He give Adam? How many ways that he said, don't go this way? How many did he give him? Only one. And there were thousands other trees and thousands other things he could drive around like he wanted. No one was hindering him as long he would avoid the one thing. God was not standing behind him and said, Adam, right, Adam, left, Adam, now straight. That's not God, that's the devil. And some people come to me and say, God impressed me, now I have to go left. I say, check that impression. God gives us laws, and in a moment you are confronted with something, you just remembered, he remembers you the law, and then you have to act according to what you know is right. That's your action. And it will come out, the love of God, when you act right. So we have to learn this, that we are fully responsible. So our body needs a love that is without force. That's why I have a goal in my life, and I finish with this. And I want to provoke you, or I want to invite you to do it the same. It's not long ago that when I read, it was in summer, that when I read 1 Corinthians 13, I came to the idea to put instead of love, my own name. So let's look how it sounds. And I would challenge you to put your own name there. Love, Horst, suffereth long and is kind. I would like it. Would you like it? Horst, envieth not. Horst, vaunteth not itself. Horst is not puffed up. I have a big deal with this. Horst does not behave itself unseemly. There might be some words we don't understand, but search them out. Horst seeketh not his own. He is not easily provoked. That is, anger is not in his way of behaving. Horst thinketh no evil. Horst rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. He beareth all things. How many would like to have that? He believeth all things. He hopeth all things. He endureth all things. Horst never faileth. I like the last one. I like every one of them. But here it says, Horst's life will how long last? Forever. Everlasting life is exercising this love. And I had a young man, he said, I will put this into my bedroom on the wall, and I will write, Horst is like this. And I said, don't, you misunderstood me. That he wanted to make a point. I said, you put your name, because you know it's so easy to put the name of your wife. Yes? My wife is long-suffering and kind. Would that not sound good? Yeah, that would suit our selfish nature, would it? But let's put our own name and mean it. And I tell you, if we will strive for this kind of love, we will have it one day. And who will see it first? Who will praise you first? Your wife and your children most. Because I tell you, in the presence of Jesus, every child was attracted to him. Why? Why? When the disciples want to stop the mothers with the children, what did Jesus say? Let them come. Let them come. There is the kingdom of heaven. He was tired. Did he go after his tiredness? No. When there was a call for him, he responded to that call and he said, let them come. Search in the life of Jesus if you find anywhere force. How much did he endure Judas? How kind was he to Judas for 3.5 years? And he messed the disciples up, you know that? He was the one who instigated the disciples. When Maria broke that glass of alabaster, it was Judas, the agent of the devil, in the midst of the disciples of Christ, that instigated them. Was Jesus disturbed by it? Was he? No. He used it. And he said a few nice words. And he said, she has always poor people with you, but me, she has just anointed me for my death. So he sanctioned her doing. He did not force anyone. He did not force Judas to not kiss him. He let it all happen on him because the love of his Father was with him, because he took it from there. Can you put here Jesus with all of these things? Yes? If Jesus represents you, then one day you must be here, put this name in, and it must fit. It must fit. Do you want it? Will it happen by chance? Will it happen by chance? Will it fall from heaven and you will just be the most loving person? You know my goal. I have this goal and I mean it. I want to become the most loving person God has on earth. I want to become the most kind, the most patient person that God has on earth. And I want to be that by not doing compromises with sin or with unrighteousness. Like Jesus. He was straight, kind, but he was never violent. He said, come on, learn from me. Meekness and humility. So how many of you would like to take this Bible verse and do it? Write it down and put your name on it. And put it somewhere where maybe you see it, but put it there where you see it every day when you open. You know, when I want to learn something, I put it on the wall on my desk. And I have there my Bible verses. Those who touched me in my life, they come there. So that when I'm in a trouble, I just look to my desk and I see, blessed is he who endures temptation. Okay. Blessed is he who is patient. And you have those Bible verses there, and when you are in distress, they just give you the power to overcome. But I tell you, the world around you will change just because you change. Christ had his power in changing the world by he living and after the law of life. The law of life says you take love from God, and the way you exercise it will show if you took from God, or you take from your mom, or you take from whoever it is. But if you take from a person, you will always fail. Because that person doesn't have that ability to give you liberty that will not force you. So by God's grace, the shining of the people of God will be the expression of this love. With it, the world will be finished. When this is in our life, when 1 Corinthians 13 becomes a living example in us, and it will not come without you strive for it. I saw how John strived for it. Did John strive for it? Did energy? Did John press to Jesus? Did he say, Lord, I want to learn this? Yes, he did. It will not happen by chance. It will happen by diligent work, by diligent taking and taking and taking from God and going to Him until the last temptation comes and we overcome. Until the last piece of force is rooted out of our selfish nature. I so want this. If there is something that I desire in my life, is that this selfish nature that wants to rule over others should be emptied, should be destroyed. Then Christianity will have an impact in the world. Then God can put you everywhere, and you will shine in the midst of difficulties. But where do you learn it? Where do you learn it? At home. There is your challenge. And if you pass the exam at home, we pass the exam outside everywhere. Everywhere. If we can love our mom with God's love, if we can love our children with God's love, if we can exercise this precious thing that is not human but divine, then we will not only be healthy, but we will be the happiest and the most powerful channels for God to save lost humanity. But without this love, as long as we go on fighting and striving, as long as we go on battling each other for who is bigger, who has right, we will never reach it. I want to quit that job. I want to quit every conflict. I want to quit with evil. And I hope you want to too. Not only for the sake of being happy or healthy, but for the sake of becoming children of God, having His character. I thank you for listening to this message, and I want to make that call. If someone wants to go with me, and from now on, he really means it. Not because you just say it's nice, but you really mean to become the most loving person. You really mean that you want to fulfill in your life 1 Corinthians 13. And I would like you to raise your hand. And may God help us. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we are so impressed by your beauty and by what heaven must be, a place of peace and comfort, where you have given a law because we are dependent on you, but you are letting us fulfill it ourselves. You do not force it on us, but you will gain our confidence so that we see it's good to keep your law, to have it written in our hearts, so that we follow you at every step. We see the beauty of your character. We want to have this chapter of 1 Corinthians 13 fulfilled in our life. We raised our hands, we raised our hearts. Lord, don't let us go. We know not what is in our hearts, but you can bring us in circumstances that the evil thing might come up like in Peter's heart when he denied you. That the evil might be conscious to us, so that we might cut it down by the cross of Christ and renew our hearts with the truth and your love. So be with us, Lord. We thank you for all this time that we had spent together. And let the fruits of this come into eternity. In Jesus' name, amen. Oh, there are some questions. You want to? Yeah, okay, 10 minutes. I am not disagreeing with this principle, just don't understand as clearly as I would like. Oh, that was yesterday with the taking. What about when Jesus was seeking sympathy from the sleeping disciples in Gethsemane? Yes, it is a need for sympathy when we are in need. Have you ever been sick? Yes? When I am sick, I need someone to be around me. It's natural. But even though Jesus was seeking for company, was he seeking it really for himself? And was it given to him? It was not given to him. And I know that Jesus would have been encouraged to see that the people who he came to save would have taken part in his battle. But they were unaware. They were expecting tomorrow that the world should come, Jesus would become king. They would not even dream that he would die. So, yes, there is nothing bad to have a companion. It's just, is he on the side of taking, on the side of giving? What for do I need him? And I think it's good to be two. And the threefold cord does not easily broken. But for what purpose? To take or to give? And I think if the purpose is right, then everything comes rightly together. So it's nothing bad to want a companion to work together with. Yes? It's nothing bad to want a partner for life to marry. It's just a purpose. Why? That can be bad. Just a purpose. To take or to give. How does lifestyle fit in with what you are teaching? Well, it fits very well in. I always said that what is missing in the lifestyle medicine is the lifestyle of love. And I would suggest that we should put the order right. That it is breaking my heart that we have books that write about health and they have not one sentence or mention of love. Did they get it? Do they understand humanity? Where there is no sentence of love, but you declare it a health book? If there is no love in health, there is no God. That's why the lifestyle is necessary, but it must be a lifestyle of love. Having it all together. Why being one-sided? Why being just on the physical level, forgetting totally the most important level, that is the spiritual one? Because I don't see in the people that promote today a lifestyle of health that they promote a lifestyle of love. It's just not there. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it breaks my heart. Love must be in the center of health. Love must be the center of a lifestyle. And if you rule out love, you rule out God. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be the vegan of vegans, you can do your exercise of exercise, it will never bring you into heaven. Because what matters? The devil took out. And I'm amazed how he did it, how successful he was. Over 100 years. He fooled us in an unbalanced message. I have to say this. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry but I'm indignated when I see it. That we say we promote health, but we are the most unloving people. We kill people with rules, not knowing that their first need is their heart is broken by a not loving situation. So there must be a reformation of the health message. Not of the message, but of the health attitude. Love must be the center, and the style that is around it must be like it. Then we are complete. And only then. So it fits together. We don't do wrong when we do a right lifestyle, but we don't do the right. We're missing the point. And this must be switched. This must be put right. And God will do it, I hope. I pray for it. I hope that we will have one day that the people will not praise us because we are vegan, but the people will praise us because we are the most loving person on earth. Because with that, no one can compete. But with veganism, the Buddhists are better. And they are more, yeah? But with love, no one can compete. Love, only those can compete who are the children of God. And in that, we must be the champions. And then we will be the most healthy people and the most loving and good people. How do you know when you are healed from your illness? You feel it. What can I say? I think you understand this question when you have a bad disease or a cancer. How do you know if you're healed? I think that is the question. But do you need to know it? I think so. This is my personal attitude. That I am sick is my responsibility. I break the law. Yes, I didn't do it on purpose. But I still take responsibility that I did it. And if it's in God's plan best, for me, after I saw my deception, to say, you now bear the result of your deception, but if you consider the right thing in your heart, and if you consider that death is a gain, you will not strive for life. Would you? You would just say, Lord, I'm willing to serve, or I'm willing to just sleep for a second until the day of resurrection. What's best? You know it. God knows it better. So why striving necessary for health, for being healed? For what purpose do you want it? It must be for service. And if God needs you in the service, He will heal you when you have removed the cause. Then His power can heal you, because you can never heal yourself. You can only remove the cause through the cross. Then, that what was damaged, God needs to restore. But He can restore it, and He will restore it. In most cases, He does it. I think if we understand the principle to change that. But in other cases, He will say, well, my child, well done. It's good. It's just a second. I sent you home I put you to rest for a while. So we should not consider our life so precious. We should not consider our life so necessary to be lived. Because if we live or die, we'll live for Christ. Yes, I want to live, but this is not our life on earth. Our life on earth is just that we pass the exam for the life in heaven. And if I pass that exam, if I die today, what will I lose? Will I lose anything? At least in my reason, I would say no. I don't know how my heart would react. This sinful, evil thing might be cling to life like something that's you have here. No. He who takes responsibility is willing to let God decide what is going to be with the consequences. David knew it, did he? He said, Lord, the Lord came and said, what punishment do you want because of your sin? And what did David say? I rather fall into your hand, Lord, because I know you're merciful. And he fell into that hand of a merciful God. But still, in His mercy, He did show a result. There were many people who died, did they? The angel was sent because we have to understand how evil is. We won't understand it if we don't see what it does. And I see how it messes up our lives, and so I hate it more and more because it messes up everything. And so it's worth that there should be a vivid in front of our eyes how evil is. So, do I need to know? I leave it to God. I just want to remove the cause. I want to have my heart in peace with God. And the rest, it is His. I think this is the best attitude, but everyone can go to God and ask Him. With the reflex of the nerve conduction goes to the spinal column and right back out to the motor neuron to get your finger off the hot stove, bypassing the brain. The impression I got from you drawing all nerves go from the brain, how does the reflex fit in the scheme? Is the question understood? We think that certain reflexes goes through the nervous circuit because you put it here without going to the brain. But you see, it's a simple way to think. Can that happen without the spirit being up in the brain? Cannot happen. You have no reflex when you're dead. So the life power and the place where everything is governed in the body is from the cortex through the spirit. Yes, there are certain mechanisms that can bypass the direct action, but I am sometimes wondering if that is the truth or not. But even if it would be that it bypasses, it would not change that everything in our life is conducted by the Spirit and by the Spirit's action. Is that plain? So, are you going to write a book? Yes, if God will, one day there will be a book. But He must give me the time, or He might search some of you to write it. And it will be written one day. I know it because I think it's a needed book. But if we would all read the Bible, I would not need to write this book. If we would all understand the gospel, how it works, it would be unnecessary. But unfortunately, we haven't grasped it, so it is necessary for the world that we have this book. And I don't know when, but I think the time approaches when it will be there, because I think I'm learning so much that it soon can be put in a book nicely together, so that it is quite complete and to the point, so that it should be a good overview about what the human being was meant to be, how he functioned, and how everything should work. I thank you very much for coming all these evenings, and may God bless you.